Welcome to the Untied podcast. Today we're talking to Matthew Mesick, the co-host of Profits Over Wages podcast. Matthew Mesick is a great guy. I've known him for a while through Tony P and Greg DeKalb. So I'm very excited to sit down with this guy. We're going to talk to him about flipping houses, real estate development, real estate investment, and his favorite things to do around Chicago, as well as some other fun things that we incorporate into this episode. And stay tuned. He's coming up right now. You currently do real estate development and investing. Where would you pinpoint the beginning of your journey to where you are now?
You mean like where I started?
Yeah.
Probably the launching point was when I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Kind of learned about working for yourself instead of working for somebody else. Getting a passive income and just kind of going after your own dreams. So I read that book and then decided that was the life I wanted to lead. And then I started going after things that put me in that direction. It's started slowly but surely. Over a couple of years, I started reading more books, listening to more podcasts, going to seminars and boot camps and whatnot. And then I started doing my own deals on the side when I was working full time as an accountant. And then just started doing more deals and scaling up. And that's kind of where I'm at now.
So reading that book, you're talking about being your own boss. Was there a point, maybe even before you got like a legitimate career or whatever, where you just had a moment where you're like, I don't want to work for anyone else other than myself?
Yeah, like right after I read that book, that's what I decided I wanted to do. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if like there was a moment in high school or something where you just had like a shitty boss and that kind of added to it as well, or maybe after high school, because we've all had those shitty bosses as well.
Yeah, no, I knew my whole dream was like, I wanted to climb the corporate ladder. I always knew I was smart and, get good grades and get a good job and whatnot and go to college. And I was going to do that for a while. And I knew at some point, later down the line, I wanted to work for myself. I didn't know, when or what I had to do to get there. But then, after, reading that book, it's kind of like a light switch, just kind of like, the Matrix, where you take the other pill, and then it opens up your eyes to everything else. And then you're like, I can do this now. And then, there's other options out there. You really did, like success is like a choice, like it's a decision to make.
Right. No, I 100% agree with that. Are you originally from Chicago?
Yeah. I grew up in the south suburbs and then moved here when I was 18 to go to DePaul and stayed in the city ever since.
That's awesome. But real quick about the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because I remember, my dad read that book. I would, skim through it because he would always like push it on me while I was in high school. He's like, read this now. Like, don't wait until you're, like my age to read it. And then I actually saw on your LinkedIn that you were hosting Cashflow game nights, which Cashflow now I realize is the cash flow that's associated with that book. That's the one that the author created, correct? Is like a monopoly sort of deal.
Yeah, totally. Like they call it monopoly on steroids. Yeah, he created that just because obviously, like, there's a lot of people who don't like reading books or too lazy to read them. So it's like a great interactive way to get everyone kind of involved and like, get the light switch turned on for them by going through and playing the game. And I hosted that game every month for 3 years, and like we usually had a good turnout, anywhere from like 15 to 25 people each time. We had like 3 games going. And, like 90% of the people who come are like never played before. And you can kind of see the bad habits that people have. And you can kind of see when they start like learning, like you see when it starts clicking in their head and like the way they start playing and changing the game, and people come back to that. And I met like a ton of awesome people like through that. And and then, COVID kind of shut that down, but I want to get that back up and started and running again. Because even I had played it, I don't even know, like 50 times, and I'm still, every time I play it, I learn something new.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's like real life principles, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's like way more beneficial. I remember playing it because they went to like the seminar where the guy was like signing the books and he was giving a presentation. They bought the book. Both my parents went and they came back and they got like cash flow and then they got cash flow for kids, which like they would like make my sister and I play. They would like play it with us and like try and make it super fun. And I was like, I feel like they're tricking me into like learning shit right now. But yeah, no, definitely a cool game, very beneficial. I mean, I remember like playing that and going as soon as I like moved out, I was like I feel like I understand that a little bit better. I understand like business more and I understand like that money management aspect of life that is so daunting, such a daunting task for everyone. But
Matt, when I was younger, my dad pretty much forced me to work when I was 13, and that's when I pretty much learned like the importance of a dollar and savings. Is there a moment in your life, younger, that you can look back to where you can kind of reflect on and be like, I'm glad that happened to me because that's where I learned the importance of a dollar and saving.
Um, I never really learned like saving. I learned more like investing. My whole thing with like saving is like, you save money and it kind of sits there and like how much is it really like gaining?
Right.
Um, but yeah, just being able to see kind of like, there's a lot of stuff out there. You get single digit returns, there's a lot of stuff you get double digit returns, like, even now with like crypto and a bunch of other stuff, there's um you can like the ROI and a lot of things now are a lot greater if you take the time to study it and learn it and like educate yourself. But no, I'll give you another example that that comes to mind. Like when I was 8, I remember I went with my parents to like a restaurant, and then they're like, "Oh, you want to eat and you'll order whatever you want." And I go to order like something on them. I wasn't really looking at prices. Couldn't even think about it at that time. I think I was trying to order like an expensive steak, like not realizing. I'm just like, going by the descriptions. And then, when the waitress was there and I just go to order that, they're like, no, pick something different. And I'm like, oh, why? Just I didn't know why. And they're like, oh, that's like too expensive. And I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, we can't afford that. Or, they just didn't want to. And I didn't really understand, but I just, I picked something else. And then they did, and the waitress went away. And then I started asking, like, why can't you afford that or this or that? And like it just didn't click to me. I was like, oh, well, if you don't have enough money to kind of choose what you want or get what you want, like why don't you go do something that gets you enough money that where you can make your own choices. So ever since that day, I'm like, I'm never gonna, you know, say that to myself or make decisions based on what I can or can't afford. I'm just gonna put myself in a position where I can afford whatever I want to do. So it's more about like that freedom to have where you can decide. You don't have to make decisions that you're forced to because you're not in the position that you want to. Focus on putting yourself in the position where you don't have to make those type of choices, and you can have the freedom to decide whatever you want.
I mean, yeah, being able to go to any restaurant and getting steak is always a good thing.
fuck yeah. I mean, I don't have kids, but if I did, I probably wouldn't let them get a steak at a restaurant. I'd be like, no, don't waste a steak on him. I'd be like, their taste buds aren't developed enough. But so like you went to doing that, and then you actually founded Park Place. What is it? Park Place. I just read it.
Park Place Property Group.
Yeah, Property Group. That's what.
Started doing some deals here in Chicago, and then we got into doing these big gut rehabs. So it started that development company, and we had about like 8, 10, 12 of those going at a time, and those were big, basically single family gut rehabs, and we would call them like pop tops. So we pop the roof off of a place because they're like a bungalow with the the slanted ceilings, and we do full second floor additions. So that went good for a while, but then after a while, like those were, you got to kind of decide what you're spending your time on, like your ROI on time.
Yeah.
So like the best one we ever did of that took like 13 months, and then the longest 2 to 3 years. So by the time you get to the end of that, you're spending all that time waiting for a check. Then you're almost in like a whole different part of your life. But by that point, so I did that with the partner, and that went pretty well for a few years. And then I was just like, but it wasn't scaling like as quickly as I wanted to. So just kind of think of like, something else to do. And yeah, so 2.5 years ago, switched my business model pretty much like the opposite, where now all I do is I buy single family homes that are like 150,000 and below. That base like 80% of the buyer pool, the buyer market can afford. The rehabs are like 25,000 and under. The rehab can get done in 1 to 3 months versus, I mean, those rehabs are taking like 9 to 18 months. Um, and then yeah, we really started doing volume. So like yeah, to date in the current business model that I have, um, we've done almost 80 flips in 25 states.
Wow.
With that business model, and it's a lot quicker. You're getting checks, every month versus, every 6 months. Um, and we've really been able to scale that, and that's kind of what I learned. Because a lot of people. That's the other thing with not only Rich Dad Poor Dad, but a lot of people what they miss is there's actually the second book called the Cashflow Quadrant, which is actually like Rich Dad Poor Dad Part Two. But it was like so big that they had to split into 2 books. That was actually more meaningful for me because if you're familiar, like the quadrant is like the left side is the employee and the self-employed, and then the right side is the business owner, the investor. So like there's a difference between flipping houses and owning and running like a house flipping business, because like you can be, you're self-employed. All that means is like you own your own job. So that's kind of what I was doing before, where we had a few flips going, but it's like you're working every day and you're doing them and you're running them, and it's not like scalable versus like what I kind of morphed into over time, where it's you choose something where you can like build up and implement systems and structures and processes, and then you really can kind of just blow that up and scale, and then because then you kind of have other people working for you. And yeah, it's really I really learned the last few years is implementing systems to be able to do that to scale.
Matt, with all of your flips that you've done, I'm super curious about in Chicago as well. Has there been anything that you've heard? Because like you said, you might not be on the grounds of the actual flip of all the people doing the, I guess, dirty work, but have they ever found like anything weird while flipping, or like tearing down a wall or something like that? Like, have you heard of any stories?
Just like random stuff in houses.
Yeah, like I don't know if like there may have been like a stash pile that like your people have came across of, or like 30 pounds of cocaine, or like something crazy like that.
The third house I ever bought, it had 150 cats living in it, and it was all over the yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, by the time I got it, like they were all gone. But like I bought it, and I guess it was all over the news. I don't really watch the news, but my dad does, and I told him about it. It's like when I was starting out. He's like, "Wait, you bought that house?" Like, and they're all black cats, and it made, it was like scaring the neighborhood and stuff because it got into the summer and really started to stink. If you can imagine, all the neighbors had to like have their windows up. The kids were walking by and stuff, and we did get like a notice in the mailbox once when I looked at it, and it said something like, basically there was like inches of feces like in the basement where like you couldn't even touch the basement floor. Like the basically there's a layer on the floor. There's like cat feces. There's so many, and then even when they were trying to board it up and get everyone, they had to have like 3 different animal groups come and like get all the cats because like one couldn't handle them all. And I mean, most of them had to be euthanized. But yeah, they boarded it up and everything, and people were breaking into it. There were cat activists, like cativists that were breaking in because they thought like the cat boarded up in it, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna kill the cats." It's like, no, we already got them all out. Like, stop breaking in the house. Like,
what are you doing,
man? So that is another house. But there was like in the master bedroom, there was this big like this structure put together by 2x4s, and it was kind of like a bed platform, but it was like custom made. And then what we had found out was that somebody had basically like someone. The lady who's lived there, ended up being like 400, 500, 600 pounds and like couldn't like move anymore. And like a regular bed couldn't like, she kept breaking the beds, like they couldn't handle it. So they had to build like a custom made like 2x4 like structure to put the mattress on top of, so that she could basically like, live there, and, she ended up like, dying in the bed or whatnot eventually. But like, yeah, we say that. So that one actually did the demo myself. So we actually had to take that apart and yeah, and we figured that out later on.
Okay.
There's another house I flipped in Alabama. We didn't find out till like we're towards the end and went to go list, but the kid like murdered both his parents in the house.
Oh
And we
no.
thought that potentially we didn't know that when we bought it. Otherwise, because sometimes there's like bad stigma about that being able to like
Mhm.
resell it, especially in like a small town. Like people know that and like they don't want to buy that house. We ended up doing okay with that one.
Of course, it was in Alabama.
Well, and like how
Yeah.
long before you bought it did that happen? Was it the previous owners?
Yeah. Well, it was a big
Oh.
house with previous owners, and then they got foreclosed on, obviously, because they're dead and they were paying the mortgage. And then we ended up buying it from the bank, like a year later.
Oh
Wow.
my God. Is
So you
that
obviously had to disclose that when selling it?
No, so
That
that's actually not a protected class. You don't have to share that
that's
legally. But no, I just remember one of the buyer agents, like mentioned that, and we used an agent that wasn't from that town because she was helping us on another project a few towns away. And she kind of told us that, and we're like, oh, I hope that doesn't mess up the whole. I mean, we were fine. We went under contract within 30 days, so wasn't anything that would affected the resaleability of the property.
It's like, hey, can you tell me a little bit about this house? Well, it definitely didn't have 150 plus cats living in it. If you heard anything, with your experience flipping houses, um, are the reality I think the reality TV shows about flipping houses, are they bullshit, or do you have a favorite? Or
It's some of both. Like, I was actually pretty close to having my own show once. That we ended up not getting, but no, there was. I know, I met some of the other flippers and whatnot, and some of it's like real, some of it's like fake. Like there was one where there was just like there's an episode where there's like a ton of like rats that just like went through and they ran, and people are like, oh no, there's rats, but they literally went and they put them in there like before shooting. So um there's, I don't know, it's probably like 50-50. Like, most of it's like true, but then half, it's like just any other reality like TV show, they enhance it to make it, more entertaining.
do you watch any of the shows? Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I used to like Flip or Flop a lot.
it's my favorite.
In general, yeah. And I think there's another one. I haven't watched them in a while. Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, those used to be my favorite.
So you almost had your own. Can you go into a little bit about that?
Let me see if I can go into it without giving away certain things.
I got you.
No, so we basically, had someone that I was working with that was a more prominent, like an actual prominent TV star in the past and currently, and it was going to be kind of like a group of us doing it together. And the premise was that it would be like a house that was one season would be the whole house and it'd be like different rooms, like it'd be like like a full project. And the thing is, we needed money, and so my background, my expertise is like raising capital. So the whole thing is, we already had the house. We actually had like the producer. We had the talent. We had like the real estate expertise, and it's like the fun. So actually, I had went out and I ended up like pitching like an investor that I was already using for my own projects. And the whole thing, it was a little bit different of a pitch, obviously. So, but it was almost kind of the same thing as just pitching like a real estate investment for a fix and flip. It was just that now there was added costs of like production costs, to actually like film it. And I actually went, and it only took me like 3 weeks, and I ended up raising like, had verbal commitments for like 1.5 million for the first 3 seasons, which
Wow.
is basically like 3 houses to flip. That like all the production costs were like included, and it would work. And then it was, and then actually once you hit 3 seasons, you can go into syndication on wherever, and that's where you actually make a lot real money, because then it's going on whatever it is, like Netflix or Amazon or whatever TV channel. So then it starts syndicating, and then you're making so much per episode per market. So I mean, it was really interesting experience, kind of learn all that and go through that and like the financing structure. And we had started with like a pretty small equity share, and we actually negotiated our way up to get probably like half. And then, anyways, I should have been the one that pitched like when we basically had secured the money verbally, and then you basically had to figure out how to, kind of like the cash flow outlay with the production team and whatnot. And there's basically a disagreement with one of the people that I was going to partner with for the real estate side of it, and like the producer that was going to produce it. And yeah, they just flubbed the pitch meeting. And those guys really started butting heads, and then everyone stopped talking. And then negotiations got really difficult, and then the whole thing kind of just fell apart. And then yeah, so but it was a good experience.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, you still got to learn, I guess, that entire side of what it actually takes to put it together and put it on the screen, which is super cool.
Oh yeah, totally. And yeah, I mean, obviously raising capital was even the hard part of that. It was more like just kind of what it always is, people working together. Like you really got to choose the right team.
Yeah.
People got to be like, come together for the right goal. And like, people got greedy really quick, really easily. And like, just, torpedoed the whole project before even got started. And then, that kind of helped me also decide, the right people to work with going forward and whatnot, and who not to work with. Because you kind of see people's true colors at different times.
That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I'm actually still thinking about when you said that the lady had to get a custom built bed. I can't get over that. Well, and here's the thing: is I had
a custom built bed.
I did. You've seen the room at my parents' house.
The 4-mattress bed.
Oh yeah, there's also 4 mattresses on the bed. Because what happened was, my parents got a new bed. I had just gotten a new bed before I moved out, and then I bought another new bed to move into my apartment. But this bed was just chilling at my parents' house, and my parents got a new bed, so they swapped out that one, and then I put that mattress and the box spring underneath my 12-inch thick memory foam mattress. And I was like, it's just like a giant mattress pad on a giant mattress. It's probably like 3 feet high, just to get into the bed. And I built it up onto this platform because I was like, first of all, there's a lot of extra weight that isn't accounted for. And second of all, I used to throw crazy parties at my parents' house. So there would be people that
come over and see my 4 mattresses.
No, there would be like one of them, one person grabbed, because there's no door on the room. It's like one big basement with a room built in the back, and they had this one guy was standing. There were people standing all over the basement. One of them standing right by my bed, and this other guy gets there and runs and grabs the dude and flips him and grabs him, and the bed frame split in half long ways. So I was like, I don't even know what to do in that situation. So what I did was I went to Home Depot, I got the pieces, and I just built.
You built your own bed frame?
I built my own bed frame because I was like, I'm going to make it stronger than any of these other ones. So I built a full-on platform. But when you said that, I was like, I'm not the only one, first of all. Second of all, I'm like, she built it for other reasons. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't think she built it.
Well, right. Someone built it for her, but I just think that's insane.
Another horror story, if you guys want to hear this one.
Yes, please.
Yes, definitely.
This one isn't mine. It's another investor, but I've heard it enough times, told it quite a few times. So there's an investor that I know, and he was actually managing this project for an out-of-state investor from California, but he was using his own, subcontractors, handymen. Sometimes when you use guys like that, they don't, necessarily have their whole life in order or whatnot. So, but no, this guy did pretty good work and whatnot. And so he started working on this house, but he was like, the guy was, the handyman was living with his dad at the time. And he's like, oh, can I stay at this house while I work on it? And so this investor thought it was a good idea. He goes, okay, well, he'll already be there. He'll wake up, he'll work, he's gonna be more efficient. So I think even at that time, he didn't have a car, so he had to kind of drop him off at the job site every day. So he goes, okay, sure. So this guy starts working and living there, and a few weeks go by and it goes okay, and then he basically doesn't hear from him for a week, and he goes, oh, that's odd, and he kind of drove by and the lights were still on and stuff, So he goes to like, check in and everything's like locked, but the lights are still on. So he kind of had like a bad feeling. So he ends up breaking one of the windows like to get in, and he kind of just like this like smell just hits him. So he's like he didn't want to go in any further. So he ends up like calling the cops and like going and check on it. Long story short, the contractor ended up like doing heroin and overdosing in the house and dying.
No.
Oh,
Oh my god.
oh my God.
Which is like horrible. One, two, it was a friend of the investors. So it's, even worse because he had been using them for a few years.
Wow.
Now on the investor side, it gets even worse. So like, if the guy was there for, almost a week. So I don't know if you guys know too much about dead bodies and whatnot, but after like 2 or 3 days, it starts like decaying. And like, I guess it like, I don't know, like the body blows up or it starts like,
Yeah.
decaying, and then like these acidic juices come out. So the house that had almost already been done, and then but basically the body had been there, and the amount of damage that it did, like the juices came out, it burned through the hardwood floors like down to the basement, and just created like a mess. So long story short, it ended up to clean up all the mess and everything and get it back to where it was. It ended up being $26,000 in damages. And this wasn't like a huge house or anything. It was kind of like your normal everyday house. So, I mean, that probably could maybe like doubled or increase the rehab budget by 50%. So then it gets even worse from there. For some reason, this the investor from California never set up property insurance.
Oh.
Like instead of like you're paying $100 a month for property insurance, and then maybe having to pay a $2,500 deductible for something like this. He had to take the entire $26,000 hit, like out of pocket.
No, that's even worse. I mean,
yeah. So that's pretty. There's your horror story, all around.
Yeah,
I'm never letting anyone stay in my house if I'm working on it.
yeah.
Holy shit! Wow.
Oh, that's so messed up. Because like, I mean, you think about it, they're like, oh,
you're trying to do a person a favor.
Yeah, you're trying to
and
do
it comes
them a
out that
favor.
they die and you owe $26,000.
Yeah, they died and like their body ruined the house.
I couldn't imagine. Oh, I couldn't imagine the smell.
Which is crazy because he was there to fix it.
He was there to fix it, and he didn't. He made it a lot worse. He made it a lot worse.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't even. And like heroin, that's a terrible like.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously terrible. It killed him.
Right.
Jeez, that is a absolutely horror story. Okay, how about a successful story?
What's your most successful flip you've ever done that you're like, this one's like,
this is sick, this is badass?
Mine that was like so good that like it was so easy, and I was like, why can't they all be like this? And like I felt like I didn't even earn the money. So I mean, we got into buying bank-owned properties where we basically get these like lists from like an asset manager of just like, hey, here's all the properties the bank's looking to offload. Here are all the prices, whichever ones you want. Just let me know, and you can buy them at those prices. So like the banks are, I mean, that list 95% of it are like just bad numbers. They're not going to work at all for investment. But like the banks, here and there they misjudge their numbers or their value. So you can, if you go through it with a fine tooth comb, you can really find deals and cherry pick them. So there's this one where it's just like, basically, I bought a house in Hawaii on a Monday for $39,000. I've still never been to Hawaii in my life. Didn't go there. Didn't even see what the house looked like, because even on Google Maps, Google Earth, it's like set back from the street. So like there's just trees and stuff. So I still had no idea what the house ever looked like. I bought it for $39,000 on a Monday, and I sold it to another investor on Friday for $105,000.
Oh my.
$60,000 in 4 days without doing anything. And then even just like the OPM, other people's money, even that $40,000, I had someone lend it to me, and then I paid him back $41,000. So I paid $1,000 to use $40,000 for 5 days to make 60 on it.
Wow.
Probably the one that sticks out of my mind a lot. So like,
yeah, that's awesome though that you were able to be like, all right, I'm gonna only spend $1,000.
Yeah.
And then you made 60,000.
Did that person come to you though, or did you have to go find them?
The private lender, I went and found them. Yeah, I just
What about the one that bought the property?
we had to find them too. We found them online. There was someone in San Diego, like cash buyers. So like marketing for cash buyers is part of our our systems. For when we go to sell property, if we go and list it on the MLS. Actually, so we could have got even more for that property if we just kept it and listed on the MLS and for the open market. But yeah, during our first year, a couple years ago, we're buying off market, selling off market, just finding other investors and posting in different Facebook groups and whatnot. So we found them there on a Facebook group.
When so I feel like everybody kind of has a general sense that like if you're in the business of flipping houses, like it's kind of just a cool area to be in. It's a cool project to do. And minus people doing meth and dying in the basement and like 150 cats, like what's a pain in the ass part of the job or the industry that most people don't look at, see, or like consider?
So for me, it's managing contractors and the construction and the rehab. That's just like not my forte or up my alley or anything that I'm like really interested in. I mean, I do get that from a lot of other investors, but kind of like it depends how someone gets into the business. But yeah, for that part of it, unless you really have like a construction background or a project management or managing people, um, I mean, I would say that's probably the consensus biggest part of the business. Just managing the construction, the rehabbers, which is really why I like projects like that where you can just buy as is, sell as is. There's no construction or rehab involved, and you're really just like for me, I have like an accounting background, so it's really just like finding something, looking at it, being able to now analyze it and say, oh, this is worth. I can get this way. I can buy this for way less than what it's worth. I can sell it for more than what I can get it for, and just kind of find that arbitrage in the middle.
How much did COVID, especially in the city, like affect, I guess, like just buying property and selling property? Like was it a big
You know what? I didn't think it affected me a lot at first. And I used to brag about it, like, oh, I do everything remotely anyways. I'm going into houses, like this isn't going to affect me at all. And it ended up ended up affecting us a lot later on. It was a big lag. So before COVID hit, we were averaging literally like an acquisition a week. Like we're buying a new house every single week. So we literally did like 51 houses in our first 52 weeks in our first year. And then it was still going like that. But then we had like a 5-month drought. Like we bought a house December 1st, and then we didn't buy another house until April 30th. So pretty much all of December, January, February, March, April, 5 months, we didn't buy one house, which was like, because inventory just disappeared. They have the foreclosure moratorium, and everything we buy is REO, so we buy foreclosures. So if there can't be any more foreclosures, like it cuts off the pipeline. And then literally just like a light switch, it just came back on and inventory started coming back. And now we bought like 13 houses in the last 2 months. So it just like, yeah, so there's 5 months drought, which really kind of set us back a bit, but now we're, catching back up again. And now it's like, even we had a list come in yesterday. We had like 48 potential properties on there with good numbers, which was like our biggest list so far this year of like how many properties we have to have potential. But yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing. Like a lot of other people who just walk away or quit or say big excuses. It's kind of like you kind of stick it through and push through until things get good again. And then that's what all businesses go through, whether or not whatever extent outside circumstances like affect you. That's part of being in business is just stick it through. And find make adjustments and pivot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So with so what was I want to say I want to word this. So okay, so with your podcast, are you guys still doing it?
No, so it was my previous partner that we co-hosted it together. We did 60 episodes, and then we kind of put a hold on it right when COVID started because we really like doing ours like in person with people because we get to feel like you get to meet them more. Um, and so we kind of put a pause on it, and now some time has passed. Um, I don't know if we're gonna go back and do it, but I mean it was pretty cool when we were doing it. I mean, a ton of people, and just like every day you're just meeting, you're learning knowledge from other people, and getting their experience and whatnot.
I mean, 60 episodes is a shit ton. Did you enjoy doing it? I'm guessing you did because you did 60.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like we interviewed, celebrities. We interviewed people that were like, we interviewed a dude that sold a company for like 200 million. Um, we interviewed people who like owned airplanes. We interviewed like just all the like knowledge we got from someone. So I mean, the reason why we did it is, we're getting started and we didn't have like a ton of experience. And if you're like, oh, let me reach out, like we literally made like a list, like a hit list of like people that we wanted to interview. So think about if the 50 most successful people that right now that you would want to sit down and have lunch with, right? Because that was kind of the main thing. But if you reach out to them and say, hey, can I sit down and can I buy you lunch? And they're going to be like, okay, well, I'm super busy. Because anyone who's anyone is like, busy, and they probably get, asked for coffee or lunch all the time. And then so we're like, okay, well, how can we have those people actually give us a time of day? Well, let's do this podcast, and then we can interview them because everyone wants to talk about themselves. Everyone wants to share. We give them exposure. So instead of asking someone, hey, can you sit down with me and give me something, you basically started with like, well, let me sit down and offer you something, contribute value to you first before I ask for something in return. So that's kind of the biggest thing because everyone's like, in business, everyone wants to work with other people or successful people. But everyone's always about like, asking for stuff and like taking. And what you really got to do is when you show up to kind of like give and like, contribute value first. And then when you ask or you need something, it's a lot easier and people want to give you stuff or they want to, contribute. And so that's really what we did because we're just like, how are we going to get around, top end people? Let's just, do this podcast. So then that was one thing we get around the people too. We gained a lot of credibility because when we were starting, we were doing a couple of projects and we wanted to start to scale and we're like, okay, well, we need more capital to do these projects. Well, how are we going to go out and, raise that? Like, we only done a couple of deals, but then you're just like, oh, here's a link to my, podcast, or you have it in your email, signature line. And then they see that, oh, you've interviewed these like 20 people. And not only are they 20 people that like, they're literally the top 20 people like in the industry. So then that's like another, big term I always like says like credibility by association. So like if other people give you the time of day and associate with you, the people like the same thing like the 5 people that you hang around with the most, that's how you're going to be. So if you're hanging around with 5 people that really aren't doing anything, then you're going to be like that 6th person that's also not doing anything. If you hang around with a lot of people that are like achieving success, like that's going to rub off on you. So that helped out a lot because then it's just like, okay, well, you all of a sudden like everyone in the industry, they really helped us like shoot up pretty quick. And then just literally the knowledge that they dropped and everything, and just asking them and being able to have those people on like speed dial whenever you need something. And I've like established like a bunch of like awesome relationships through having that podcast.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Who else was it? Someone was just telling me that exact same, like the 5 people you hang out with.
Oh, that was me.
Oh yeah, that was you. I was like, as one of the 5 people I hang out with most, right here.
Like, yeah, the five people you hang out with, like you're the average of, right? It's something like that.
Yeah.
Huh.
So do you know 5 people?
Yeah, I know 5 people. Asshole. On my own podcast. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's a good descriptor of like the 5 people. But I mean, I feel like besides the 2 people that I'm sitting in a room with now, it's constantly changing, especially if there's not like a networking event going on. Like I got that group of people that I see all the time, which is how I know Matt. But I mean, other than that, I mean, it's just constantly cycling. I mean, probably like my solid group of 5 people. I don't know if I have that many now that I am saying it out
loud. Matt, I want to talk to you a little bit, or I guess we want to talk to you a little bit about Chicago. So living here your entire life, especially because of school, if you could flip and or improve like one tourist destination, what destination would that be?
You mean attraction, tourist
attraction, sorry.
Oh, in Chicago?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I don't even go to any tourist attractions.
Okay, which tourist attraction do you think is the most overrated?
Wait, you know what? Wait, I'll answer that first one. So Navy
Okay.
Pier, what I'll do, because I go boating so much, I would put a dock there where people could come and pick people up and drop people off, because it's like very inconvenient when you're out there and they don't do that. So I would do that. For
And
sure.
it's like so far out in the water too. See, that's the thing about, like, it makes so much sense to have a dock there that we don't, because it is so out there.
Yeah.
But like they used to have one, and then they discontinued it like, I don't know, 4 years ago. They're talking about putting another one, but it hasn't happened yet.
I feel like they need to build a bar at Navy Pier that you can dock up to, and like that would be.
Well, you know what? I don't know if I signed an NDA where I can't share this, but they're they're supposed to be building this thing in the corner of the playpen, which is basically like this big floating restaurant. Well, I think it has like 3 restaurants and bars, and a bunch of boats can pull up and dock to it and whatnot. And I invested in it back. It was a Kickstarter. I invested in it back in it's like 2014. They're like, oh, 2 to 3 years it'll be ready. I was like 7 years. So they've been working on it, and I can't share too much, but they had been making a lot of progress, and then COVID kind of put a pause on it for a bit. But I think it's still gonna have faith and confidence just from the updates they share that it's still gonna get there, but it's probably gonna be another 2, 3, 4 years. I feel like, because they're trying to copy the Vegas type of daytime bar type of thing.
Oh yeah. Well, why did do you know why they discontinued the dock off of Navy Pier?
There was never,
Or
or was there?
I'd probably
You
say
said-
like liability issues if you just have all these like crazy drunk boaters like driving in and trying to dock and stuff, and there's all these like tourists walking, and I don't know. There's probably a way they can do it legitimately, but the dock they had wasn't like a lot of space or room. Like only 1 or 2 boats could pull up at a time.
right.
But I don't know the real reason. But
Why? What they should do is have like a little harbor you can pull into, and just like pay for parking. Like that would rake in tons of money. First of all, like just put me in the seat. Like I'll make the call.
That's what we want. You drive it away.
like a touch or go. You pay like $10 or $20 to like you get 5 to 10 minutes, just like pull up and pick up and drop off.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Yeah.
So okay. So back to the tourist attractions. What tourist attraction do you think is the most overrated in the city? Like, so if you had people visiting from out of town and they're like, hey, we want to do touristy things, where would you be like, I guess we could go here, but deep down inside you're like, I do not want to go there?
I mean, I'd probably just take them to the Bean, Millennium Park, because that's like the easiest thing where everyone wants to go.
That was literally my answer for most overrated on our episode with Greg.
Yeah.
I was like, the bean. It's dumb. It's just a giant silver bean, and everyone wants to touch it, and then they're like, why are COVID numbers so high?
I think the best part about taking people to the Bean though is you're like, hey, we can just go to Sydney's. It's across the street.
Cindy's isn't even open yet.
Is it dead?
Last time I checked, it said temporarily closed.
Well, I mean, usually you could. And so that would be my reasoning for taking people to the Bean.
It's open. It says closes at 11. Okay, so it must be open now. But yeah, they had good old fashions.
So just like the View.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too.
There were like $5 old fashions during happy hour. I was like, yep, sign me up.
Sydney's had $5 old fashions?
Yeah.
Right now.
Man, yeah, let's go right now. Do you have a favorite spot in the city? What's your favorite place?
Oh man, I go to a lot of spots.
Name them.
No, like kind of like the Division bars over like State and Division, like that strip. Man, there's so many places to name. I can't even name them all. Just in general.
What's your favorite type of like bar to go grab a drink at? Like if you had to like describe an atmosphere, what's your ideal bar?
See, that's a hard thing because I do like anything and everything, and I never have like one thing. And I usually don't even invite people to stuff. I let them invite me to stuff. But I would say if I had to sit anywhere and drink, it'd be out on a boat on Lake Michigan, the playpen. That's the best part of it.
So can you? Because my brother for the past like 2 years did the boat share thing, so I've been lucky enough to get out on a boat and go out into the water every now and then, and it's hard to describe. I've been able to take these two buffoons out with me too, but it's hard to describe like telling people what the city really looks like and the different feel and love you get for the city when you are out on the boat and like in the water just hanging out. Like it's amazing.
Oh, totally. Because you can see the whole city, the whole skyline, and you're just like sitting there in the water. There's really nowhere else in the country you can do that too much. I don't know, like maybe Miami. Like, I mean, if you're in LA, there's not that many skyscrapers. They're not that close to the shore. And then in New York, no one really wants to be in like the Hudson River or anything. But just like the fact that you can like sit in the playpen and be anchored and just chilling, and like the entire skyline is just like right there. I mean, I took it for granted, but then like when I have people come and visit, especially like that aren't even from Chicago and they're there, they're just like, what the hell? Like people don't even know it exists or like what the experience is like. I mean, I go there. Yeah, I mean, that's it. And it is also kind of cool to go out and drive around out in the open, go by the cribs, which are those like the big things that pump all the water to the city from like 2 miles out. But yeah, just staying along the shoreline and hanging there with the entire and then even at like I don't go out too often at night, but if you see it at night, like it's a whole different like animal, like being out in the water and seeing all the city lights and the entire like skyline, like it's just incredible.
Yeah, it's stunning to say the least.
Have you seen it at night?
I feel like
No, I was asking.
We've been out like not pitch black, like the sun was setting and it was getting dark. Because I mean, you don't want. I just feel bad for the driver. Like
I mean, I went with you for that. Like we saw like sunset. Like
yeah, the sunset. That's usually when we'd head back to the dock is when the sun was setting.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I see Matt, you're always out on a boat, dude. Every time I like go into Facebook, it's like I'm on a boat, and I'm like, fuck, I wish I was on a boat.
All right, let's go. I'll take you guys.
All right, yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I know. I literally saw one day after you were like, hey, hit me up. I got 5 spots available. I was like, damn.
You didn't hit him up.
I was.
What the hell is wrong with you?
I wasn't in the city that day. I was like, son of a bitch.
You weren't in the city that day. You could have been like, hey, I can't go, but I still have friends that can.
All right. Well, next time I'll text him.
You're freaking.
I see that, and I'll be like, Michael, quit your job. You got to go on this boat.
Deal.
But yeah, definitely. So yeah. So most overrated tourist attraction would you say is the Bean? Because I just want to make sure that that's what you're saying.
Yeah, if I have to go on record, I'll choose that.
Awesome, perfect. That's what I said. Greg, if you were interested, Greg said
double-decker bus.
The double, like the two, like the.
You know what? I've never been on that, and it actually sounds pretty cool to go on. I don't know if you guys saw that movie. Was it The Breakup? And like Vince Vaughn was like gave those tours on there. I was like, man, I've never seen them. Like I thought it was pretty cool. Actually, the best tourist attraction, if you guys ever did the architecture tour.
Yep.
Like the boat that takes you down the river, and they tell you about all the buildings, about everything. Like, didn't know like any of that, and it goes like the history is like pretty amazing.
I've been on that tour. I love it. The only thing that I don't like about it is my brain sucks at remembering anything. So I want to take like a notebook and a pen with me and just be like, oh, that one's cool because of this. Got it. And then like I can study the river. So that way if I ever take a hot date out to downtown, I'm like, that building was built in blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that's probably gonna get you laid, buddy.
Hey.
But yeah, I haven't been on the architectural tour. That's what Greg was telling us about. You've told me about it. I definitely do want to check that out, but I haven't gotten around to it.
Well, I also did the haunted like ghost and gangs tour, and that's when I learned that just how many people died all over the city.
Damn.
Like,
dude, you can just watch the news, and it's like 300 every weekend.
That's true. That's true.
Dude, someone was stabbed a block away from my building this morning. It's a Wednesday.
Have you talked to your roommate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He told me about it. He like sent me a Snapchat. He's like, dude, someone got stabbed. It's like 10 a.m. And I was like, yeah, it's also Chicago. Like, I'm unfazed at this point. Like, it's ridiculous.
Madam, the Chicago food war, would you rather have deep dish pizza or a Chicago hot dog or beef?
Beef. Yeah. I used to be like the deep dish a bit, and then I realized it's just like all dough, and then I'm like kind of gave up on it. And I've never really liked the Chicago style hot dog. But yeah, Italian beefs, like I had one this morning. So like
where do you go to get them?
dude, so like no, it's the way you get I get hot marinara on it, but here's what I do, no one does. Instead of getting mozzarella, I ask for nacho cheese. So I get nacho cheese on them all the time. It's like a game changer, like no one would think of it. Then I get them dipped. But yeah, I mean like any place, but most underrated Italian place to get Italian beef from, you'd never think of, Home Depot. Like,
What?
yeah, no, at the end of it, they got this little cart thing. I think it's called like Eisenhower or something. You go there and you get it. It's like $5 or $6, and it tastes like phenomenal. You would never think to get it where they would have it. Like it's in my top 5 of like best Italian beefs. It's like the Home Depot cart, and people who've got it, they know. But most people don't know that even exists.
All right.
Where's the nearest Home Depot? My mouth's watering. I like the way he described it, and like, I don't even think he went into that much detail.
That and next time I have a date, we're going downtown for drinks. Then she's like, "Where are we going for dinner?" I'm like, "You'll never fucking guess." Walk her into Home Depot, go into like the outdoor furniture section, sit her down, pull out 2 freaking beef sandwiches. Perfect.
So you got Portillo's, Al's beef, Buena beef. Now that they're starting to have some more, and then Home Depot. Those are the top 4. No order.
No order.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta get me some Bona. I love Bona. But I also, you've never had Bona?
No.
Oh, damn, Bona's like, it hits different because my parents used to live, like they bought our house at Berwyn from the Bona Beef family.
Oh.
So like, yeah, my dad knows all those guys, but they, yeah, we grew up in that house, and we grew up like right by the Berwyn location of Bona Beef. So it was just like, and they were a client for the longest time. So it was like, we would just get Bona Beef all the time. And I was just like, when we moved to Indiana over the border, I was like, let's get Bona Beef. They're like, we can't here. Like, there's no way to get it here. But they actually just put one in, and like, yeah, it was perfect. But yeah, that's probably my number 1. But that's because of nostalgia, not necessarily it's the best of the best. I just love it.
Matt, with all of your, I guess, with your love of boats and your history in the business and networking and like just connecting with people in your industry, have you ever been on like a sick ass, like just huge ass yacht?
Yeah, like not anything like super. I mean, private ones. Yeah, like super big or sick, but like those ones actually like the Nita D ones and the ones that go from Navy Pier, like the triple deckers, they have like, they have like 3 bars, and there's like a helicopter on one of them at the top. I mean, those are pretty dope. Summer of George is pretty dope. It's like a party once they got a bar down in the base on the indoor kind of first floor, and then the top is just like, they have like DJs, and they'll just go like nuts. I mean, all those are probably the sickest ones I've like been on, where like the party ones are, it's like $30 to go on, like totally worth it. And then the private ones are more chill, and you have like cool people, and then it's kind of like a free for all. But yeah, I started getting like pretty invested in the boating community the last couple of years. Started getting a lot of invites on other people's boats, and then I have a friend who owns 2 boats that he charters out. They make really good money, and I was like talking numbers with him and stuff. So that's something I'm going to be like looking into in the future. Doing real estate and owning rental properties. If I can do that instead, and buy boats and like charter those out and make the same amount of money or more, but then also use them in the spare time when they're not chartered out. Like, then it pays for itself. Then I'm getting paid to own a boat and go out on a boat. Like that's
it's rough.
I found out about this year, so that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Rough life. What's what's the end game? Like, do you want to have one of those yachts, or do you just want to be able to like get a place where you can just park a boat at?
No,
At 6 o'clock. Did you hear?
sorry,
Was that you?
that was me. Repeat the last question.
No, I was just curious, like if you had an end goal for like owning a certain type of boat or boats or land with boats.
Yeah, so no, that's because so I grew up basically on a boat. My dad had like a small like 17-footer that he still has, that he still goes out like once a week in Cedar Lake, Indiana, like an 8-seater. And then so that was kind of just grew up with that. And then when I came to Chicago, and then I bought into a sailboat for 2 years with I had a friend who owned one, and I bought out like one of his partners and kind of learned all about the Chicago harbors and whatnot. And I took like a year break, and I bought into one boat club that had jet skis, and they didn't know what they were doing. I mean, it was really fun. And then they had COVID ended up like closing them. And then I joined this other club last year, and now I'm starting to kind of learn, more about it and whatnot. But no, yeah, that's definitely the end game. Like I'd live on a boat if I could. So kind of
Really?
one of the things I'm thinking about is kind of starting to go migrate towards Florida and Central America and the Virgin Islands and stuff down there in Costa Rica and whatnot. Because real estate's really good down there, way warmer weather, and then I can boat year round instead of just like 3 months out of the year. And then so yeah, it's really opened up my mind the last year or two of like real estate and beyond. Of like there's another business there that's like where they say do what you love and really invest in your passion. Because real estate was always just like a vehicle to kind of bring me to like the next level or kind of get to where your goals are. But like when I can tie a passion into that with also investing and passive income. Like that's yeah. So I'm just kind of starting on that. So yeah, I think you called it.
I mean, I can see it.
So wait, so you said your dad still goes out on Cedar Lake?
Yeah. He just retired 2 months ago, so now he goes like probably 2 or 3 times a week instead of once a week.
So do they live out that way?
No, he's like about a 45-minute drive from there.
Yeah.
But they might actually move closer now that he's retired.
Yeah, because my parents are not far from Cedar Lake, so that's like the area I grew up in.
Jackson, he almost had to change his shorts when you mentioned Indiana.
I was like, whoa! I was like, no way! I was like, where Cedar Lake is? Because like, yeah, well, I was St. John. We call that witness protection because they don't even show it on the map when they like show the like weather forecast for the week. They just show like all of the surrounding ones. No one knows. No one's ever actually from St. John. But
well, my brother lives in Cherville, and probably more than half my family or 2/3 of my family is like down in that area, like Crown Point and Lowell and Munster, whatever you name. Yeah,
I've drank at I think every bar in Crown Point.
Shocker.
That is shocking. There's a lot of. It was a lot of hard work and determination. I couldn't do it alone.
And actually, that not to bring up bad points again, but that heroin overdose guy from that house that was in Indiana too. So
of course it was.
Where was that at in Indiana?
I don't know if it was like Hammond or like Griffith. I want to say it was Griffith.
Yeah, not that checks out, but I mean it's not super surprising. I mean I feel that there is a little bit more. Like Indiana, first of all, there's like a heroin pandemic. There was that before there was a COVID pandemic. So, but Indiana is just like, it's crazy. With like, I know people that I graduated with that OD'd on heroin. So it's definitely a big fucking issue over there. But
sounds like it.
Yeah, it's messed up. Well, Matt, thank you again so much for coming on the Untied podcast and telling us the horror stories, because as much as they are terrible, we do love them. We like for some reason enjoy hearing like the craziest, worst thing that could happen.
Well, I mean, and it's part of flipping houses.
It is,
believe it or not.
Well, both those stories that I told you actually submitted to like one of the biggest nationally known real estate investors. Like he did like I think one was like top 10 horror houses, and the other was like top 10 horror stories about contractors. And they both I was the only one to make both lists, like nationwide, and he's got the biggest influence in like the real estate investing community. So yeah, be hard pressed to find better stories than that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's definitely great that you made both lists. I mean, that's impressive. Because yeah, wow, it's again, I don't know why we enjoy hearing like the horror stories of like on the job, like worst thing that could happen, but for some reason that is so interesting to us that we're like, wow, because we're so far removed from
Maybe
that.
because we're horrible people.
That
Well,
might also be it.
we went to go do a podcast episode where I literally did a post and I go, hey, we're going to do a horror story podcast episode. So we're like, okay, let's get 10 people to tell 5-minute stories each. And nobody submitted anything. And I was like, we tried to do that and we had to. Okay, there was another one. I don't have too many details on it, but essentially, like, you really got to focus, pay attention to what, like, insurance you have. There was a guy who fell. Basically, guy showed up to work and he shouldn't have gone to work that day, like a contractor. And he was showed up like drunk from the night before, was wearing like gym shoes. It was like wet. He went up on a ladder. He slipped off the ladder, fell back, fell on like one of those steel fences, like impaled himself and like died. And the investor who owned the house, like the guy's family, like sued him, which obviously wasn't his fault whatsoever. It's obviously the guy who showed up drunk, like not ready to work, with the right shoes and whatnot. The guy had like a big, like $3.5 million like real estate investing business, and the whole thing ended up going down the drain. He went bankrupt just because of that one thing, because he didn't have the right paperwork set up. Like basically, they were able to say that this guy was an employee of his versus an independent contractor because he didn't have the right paperwork to say that guy's an independent contractor and he's not liable for anything that he does, and he has to have his own, he's like, oh, he didn't have workers' comp and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so that legal stuff and that compliance stuff, a lot of people don't pay attention to it. It's like, boring. They're like, oh, well, what are the chances anything's ever going to happen? And like, you make one wrong step and it could, the whole business can go under.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to check our insurance paperwork now.
Okay, so yeah, I was gonna say if we've learned anything from today, we need to cover your ass with paperwork, not let contractors live in your house. Home Depot has great beef sandwiches.
That's one positive. One super duper positive thing is Home Depot is a hidden gem in the city or wherever.
You gotta get it dipped with nacho cheese and giardiniera.
And Tony and Greg owe us a Miami trip, and Matt now owes us a trip out on the boat.
Oh yeah. Wait, I want to go to Miami too. Let me know when.
All right, yeah, we'll just tell them you're with us. Yeah. We'll be like, no, you guys know Matt.
Yeah, no, they don't.
But yeah, it'll be fun. We'll end up in Miami, and yeah, we'll definitely see you before then. Though we'll grab a drink soon.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely thank you again for coming on, and then people can connect with you or follow you on where's the best place to follow you?
You can just email me at Matt Matt Mesick Mesick @gmail, or if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Matthew Mesick.
Awesome, and we'll have your Instagram in the description below, so make sure to go there, check that out. And thank you again so much for coming on the podcast, and we will see you soon.
Good talking to you, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right.